Hi my dear students. In this tutorial I would like to present to you again the position absolute. As discussed in class, this is one of the trickiest positions. So I wanted to show you maybe both the motivation and some examples of how to use it. So let's start with the motivation. What you see here is my desktop, and I'm using it just as I use it when I develop. I have one window, which is the editor, the code editor, Visual Studio Code in this case, and next to it, just next to it, a browser. In this case I have Google Chrome. And what we see here in Google Chrome is we see a usual pricing plan for a website. We see three possible pricing, and then we see that the site shows us one specific option with some sort of an emphasis, most popular. We see three options, and because it knows that most users are simple consumers, that they are looking for the cheap plan, then they want to also emphasize this with this emphasis of most popular. Another option, here you can see another hosting website, two options, and same trick, most popular, and you can clearly see that they would like us to choose this option over the other. So let's close this and see how we can implement similar thing in our code. What I have here is I created a very simple skeleton. It's an HTML document. It has the head section and body section. I've added something interesting here in the head, HTTP equiv refresh. This simple option will make the browser keep refreshing the web page every 1 second. That's the value of content equals 1. So every 1 second the web page will be refreshed. So if I write in the body the usual hello world and I do a save, then it immediately appears after 1 second, but quite immediately appears in the web browser. This will allow me to make changes and immediately see them on the browser. Some of you asked this in class. You can also see that I've started with a CSS, a style CSS, with styling the body section height 100%. It means that it will occupy the entire viewport, and this is useful for me because I wanted everything to look black so it looks nice on the screen. RGB 30-30-30 is a deep gray level. And then color white, so we can actually see the text. This is not very important. In our example here, we will not use text almost at all. So what I would like to do here is I would like to create three divs, one next to each other, as if I'm making my own hosting plans and I want to create three hosting plans. And on the middle one, I would like to put some emphasis like popular or something like that. So I would like to draw the attention of the viewer to this option. So I need three divs. Let's start by entering three divs. And because they are very similar, they will all be inline blocks, let's say, with similar background, I will make it a class. So this is class plan. And we remember that we use CSS CSS selector class when we have several items which are similar. Let me copy this, and now I have three divs. Of course, we cannot see anything. We now need to stylize them. So plan, and here let's put width of, let's say, 30%, height, let's say 400 pixels, just to have something, and the background, let's put light gray. All right. I press the save button, and of course the divs are one on top of the other, and there is no space between them. Let's add quickly a space. Let's put margin 10 pixels. We now see the spaces, and the last thing is let's convert them into inline blocks. And I make a save, and now we have three inline blocks that look similar next to each other, and that's a very, very good start. So now I want to make an emphasis. I would like to insert into the middle block another object that will put an emphasis there. So let's take this. This is the middle div, the middle block, and let's add an ID here. ID in order to differentiate it so I can stylize it separately. So let's put an ID recommended. And let's now stylize the recommended. Let's change the background to light green. And make a save, and then we have the middle div already it already popped up a bit because of the different color. But now let's make it really pop up, even make it a bit cheesy, like a used sales car. Let's put like a discount or look at me message on it. So in order to do it, let's make here another div. Let's give it an ID, message, shorthand for message. And now let's stylize it. What I would like to do with message is give it size. We start with 100%, maybe we change it later. Height, maybe 100 pixel. And then background, let's make it red so it's clearly seen. All right, this is already nice. So already I have a div with like a title, but I want to do here something a bit different. I would like to move it a bit and also put it maybe in a bit of an angle so it shines compared to the other divs. And I would also like to use the absolute position in order to stylize it. So we remember that in order to position something as absolute, it will be placed relative to the nearest positioned ancestor. In our case, if you look at the code, we have the message div. The nearest ancestor is the recommendation div, the bigger div. So in order for this div to be positioned, let me simply make it position relative. We remember that by just declaring it relative, we do not change its position. I make a save, nothing moved, but we now made it positioned. So the inner div, the message div, will be positioned. Once I declare it as absolute, it will be positioned relative to this recommended div. So let me demonstrate that. Let's define the message div as position absolute. And again, I save, nothing happened because it hasn't moved. It was already sitting in the default position on the top of the containing div. Let's move it a bit. So maybe left 10 pixels and top 10 pixels. All right, now it has moved. It has moved, and what I'd like to do now is I would like maybe to make an angle, to make this div in an angle. So let's make a transform, rotate 20 degrees. All right. I will not claim this is pretty or this is a nice design. I just wanted to show you how easy it is. Now, if I want to make it a bit, to look a bit better, but just a bit, I'm not a designer, instead of 100%, let's make it maybe 60%, and let's now place it relative to the right-hand side. And move it a bit outside of the box, maybe a bit more. All right. So again, does this look good? Not sure, but it's very easy to make these changes and position the message element wherever we want it. Now, this element is now positioned relative to its containing div. If for just 1 second I remove the inline block just to make an experiment, you see that the main divs, the plan divs, went back to the original default position of a block, one under the other, but you can clearly see that the message div was is fixed to the exact same place. If I now turn it back to inline, you see it just moves together with the div, like a stamp on an envelope. You remember in class that I mentioned it. So that's it, a very quick tutorial to show you how to use position absolute, and also maybe you saw a bit about my workflow and how I can very quickly program in the Visual Studio Code with a nearby browser, very similar to the JS Fiddle in terms of how quickly I can program and immediately see the results. Bye bye.